of your stuff? Shalom, everyone. So many people here. It's really, I know it means a lot to the family that you're all here. Welcome. We're here to mourn the death and celebrate the life of Sharon Alpert Rosenthal, beloved mother, grandmother, aunt, cousin, and friend, and dental hygienist to so many. We offer our love and support to her children, Stuart, Laura Beth, and her partner John, Elaine, and her partner Mike, the grandchildren, Thomas and Robbie, Austin and Johnny, and Ira, her special friend and partner for many years. We'll begin by reciting Psalm 23, which the Lord is my shepherd, which King David speaks about how God is watching over us and our souls in life and in death. And so I'll say it first in English, and if you want to join me, if you remember the English, feel free to join in. The Lord is my shepherd, I shall not want. He maketh me to lie down in green pastures. He leadeth me beside the still waters. He restoreth my soul. He guideth me in straight paths for his name's sake. Yea, though I walk through the valley of the shadow of death, I will fear no evil, for thou art with me. Thy rod and thy staff, they comfort me. Thou prepare a table before me in the presence of mine enemies. Thou hast anointed my head with oil. My cup runneth over. Surely goodness and mercy shall follow me all the days of my life, and I shall dwell in the house of the Lord forever. Now we'll hear Psalm 23 chanted in Hebrew.
Adonai roi lo exar, bino te sheyar bitzeni, al mi menuchot yenaleni. Nafshi yeshovev, yancheni b'maglei tzedek, yancheni b'maglei tzedek, leman shemo.
wrote in the book of Proverbs, a woman of valor, Eshet Chayil, a woman of valor and strength. Who can find? Her value is far beyond pearls and rubies. Her husband's heart relies on her, and he shall lack no fortune. She is good to him all the days of her life. She seeks wool and flax and works with her hands willingly. She's like the merchant ships. She brings her bread from afar. She arises while it is still night and gives food to her household. She plans for a field and buys it. With the fruit of her hands, she plants a vineyard. She is clothed in strength and makes her arms strong. Her candle does not go out at night. She extends her hands to the poor and reaches out her hand to the needy. She fears not for her household because of snow, because her whole household is warmly dressed. Her husband is known at the gates when he sits among the elders of the land. Strength and honor are her clothing. She smiles at the future. She opens her mouth in wisdom, and the Torah of kindness is on her tongue. She watches over the ways of her household and does not eat the bread of idleness. Her children rise and praise her. Her husband lauds her. Many women have done worthily, but you surpass them all. Charm is deceptive and beauty is vain, but a woman who reveres God shall be praised. Give her the fruit of her hands, and in the gates let her deeds speak her praise. Our God and God of our ancestors, 1,000 years in your sight are a passing day, an hour of night. The generations come and go while you endure forever. We're always in your hand, Adonai, in death as in life. Help us who mourn the loss of Sharon to look beyond this moment, to realize that death cannot destroy the bonds of your everlasting divine love. Sustain us with the knowledge from faith that you will not allow us to suffer oblivion, for you, Eternal One, have taught us the way of life. Through you, we gain eternity, and let us say Amen. So now we'll hear from some of the people who were very close to Sharon. We're going to begin with her children, Stuart, Elaine, and Laura Beth. Yes, is the Zoom picking up everything? Yep, okay, great. And you guys can just pass the mic.
On behalf of my sisters and myself, I'd like to thank each of you for being here today, whether in person or online, to help us remember an amazing lady. We'd also like to thank Rabbi Aaron and the cantor and the other members of the OZ staff and community for being so kind and so generous with their time and support. This is the Ohavit Tzedek I remember from my childhood. And the reason I still feel at home here, in spite of the 17,261 days that have passed since the last time I stood on this spot to make a speech, but who's counting? 17,261. Since we posted the news on Facebook and word went out to the community, we've received so many lovely messages of condolence and support. They have meant so much to us. There's been an avalanche of stories and anecdotes about Mom, who, if you weren't already aware, touched the lives of so many, many people. Rabbi Aaron has invited us to share a few thoughts or memories about Mom, and we thank you for being here to listen and remember and even learn new things about our Mom with us. So as the oldest child, I get to go first, so I would like to talk for just a few minutes about road trips. What is life but a big road trip? This has been especially true for me. though as an adult, I've lived in 9 different states in 3 different time zones. Whenever anybody asks me where I'm from, I always say Vermont. I've just been on an extended road trip. What's made it okay is that I always knew I had a home base here, and I always knew I wasn't traveling alone. And in both cases, I have my mom to thank for that. I'll explain. Our travels together, me and my mom, started early with trips to see our cousins, the Alperts, on Shore Road, carpool to Hebrew school here at OZ, weekly piano lessons, summer swim practice, shopping for school clothes at Magram's downtown. We spent a lot of time in the car together. Even after I got my license, there were trips, including a marathon period during my junior year when Mom and I drove all over the Northeast visiting colleges, setting the stage for the next part of my journey. And depart I did, but no matter how far I ventured, Vermont was always home, and the face and heart of home for me was our mom. Fast forward about 30 years and innumerable visits, and I don't remember whether it was her idea or mine, we decided to do our first mother-adult-son road trip. We started at her place in Williston, heading north and east, till we found ourselves way up the coast of Maine. We visited Bar Harbor and Acadia National Park and followed Route 1 south from harbor to harbor, scoring the tastiest, I hate to say it, but lobster roll, and the most amazing blueberry pie either of us had ever eaten. The trip was a great success, and so it was that in 2014, after I'd had a couple of years of personal and professional challenges, my mom volunteered to ride shotgun with me and my dog Rupee as we retreated from the West Coast back to the East, so I could start a new teaching job in Princeton. That's in Princeton, not at Princeton. Mom flew to meet us in Denver, and we dropped in for a quick visit with cousin Barbara in Boulder. Hi, Barbara. And undertook a leisurely 5-day drive across the middle of the country. We thrilled at the Rockies in Colorado, marveled at the flatness of Kansas, took a sort of a tram to the top of the Gateway Arch, chose a nationally famous barbecue joint over the Grand Ole Opry in Nashville, again, not so kosher, and then popped in at my sister Laura's in North Carolina before heading north to New Jersey. We talked about anything and everything and just had the best time. Well, regrettably, Mom wasn't really up for big road trips after that, but my regular visits home still seemed to involve a lot of car rides with Mom. The question was always, where can we go? Who can we see? We drove up to Westford to see Ira riding his John Deere tractor in the 4th of July parade. Went down to West Haven to see my nephew Johnny, racing at Devil's Bowl. Headed up to the Champlain Islands to soak our feet at Sandbar State Park. Found a new maple sugar house outside Montpelier. Dropped into Burlington for the Sunday night band concert at Battery Park and visited my favorite swimming hole in Jericho. Mom was always up for an excursion and didn't care where we were going as long as she got to go along for the ride. We took our last road trip this past Monday, the 30th, the afternoon before Mom left us. We'd been spending a lot of time watching TV, and Mom wanted to bust out. It wasn't a major outing. We stopped at the Essex Free Library to renew her well-worn library card, which was expiring, and on a whim headed up the hill to Jericho to see if Palmer's was open. It was. In fact, it was the last day that Palmer's, home of the finest maple soft serve ice cream on the planet, known to Vermonters as Maple Creamies, was serving as frozen treats before going on hiatus till spring. Mom predictably wanted a maple creamy hot fudge sundae, but hot fudge was not to be had. She usually wanted me to get her a child-size ice cream, but on this occasion, I got her a small, which, believe me, is still a lot of creamy. She actually didn't complain too much, And the two of us sat side by side, not bothering to talk, trying to make our cones last as long as possible. And when we were done, she just patted my leg and smiled. And we drove home, and the next morning she was gone. Well, this story of mine has been quite a lengthy excursion of its own, but I think you see the theme. I've been on a journey my whole life, and there's been one constant. My mom, my North Star, my my partner in crime, sharing in my adventures, helping me to find my way, reminding me that though there are often bumps in the road, home and a hug and a smile await at the end of every journey. She may have left us, but Vermont is still and will always be home. And I still see her face and feel her arms around me. I'm not an especially religious person, but if there's any justice in the universe, Mom has now ended her own journey in the arms of her beloved mother and father and brother. She will continue to be my inspiration and guide and companion always.
I know most of the faces here. Thank you all for being here. I'm Elaine. I got to add this in. My cousin Jeff was going to be Elaine. My cousin Mark was going to be Elaine. My cousin Scott was going to be Elaine. My brother was going to be Elaine. Then I came along. So here I am. My mom was truly a real-life superhero. She was the most selfless, giving, loving human being with the biggest heart in the entire universe. She would light up any room she walked into. My mom loved fiercely her children, her grandchildren, her nephews, Ira, and all those in her big circle of life, past and present. My mom, she had a calendar hanging in her pantry. My daughter would buy her a calendar every year with a pocket in it so she could put her cards. And she had everyone, and I mean everyone's birthdays and anniversaries on it. And I'm sure all of you were recipients of that. We'd have to go to the store continually to replenish her stash, so she had choices. Every week there was a card that had to go in the mailbox. Or we'd be heading out for errands, and she'd say, oh, Lainey, so-and-so's anniversary card is on the table. I need you to mail it on your way out tonight. My mom rarely forgot someone's special day. Her family and her friends were her world. My sister and my brother and I were the luckiest kids, though. No matter what the timeline in our life, my mom always put us kids first. I liked to be involved in everything when I was young. I think I tried every sport offered through grammar and middle school. My mom got me to every practice and was at every game. I used to play the Burlington International Games, which would alternate every year between Burlington, Vermont and Burlington, Canada. And each summer I usually played soccer, which she made sure I got back and forth to every single practice. And I remember one year I wanted to try something different, and I wanted to be on the BIG swim team. I'm not sure why, because we were all on the country club swim team. But at any rate, my mom sat me down and she said, "This is fine." She said, "But you're getting up every single 5:30 a.m. practice if I am." The following year, I played soccer again. I played sports all through my middle school every season. My mom never missed a game. When I was in the 8th grade, I played on 4 basketball teams. My mom still never missed a game, or at least it felt like she hadn't. Mind you, she never missed any activities of my sister or my brother or myself. But keep in mind, she was a superhero. When I hit high school, the varsity coach, Mrs. Burley, wanted me to play basketball. I had to tell her I'm sorry, but I was skiing for the ski team. Another thing my mom schlepped me back and forth to, ski racing. Well, needless to say, when Mrs. Burley told me she was working it out so I could be on the ski team and be on the varsity basketball team, this is when my mother put her foot down. She said, "Lainey," she said, "this isn't going to work. You need to pick one or the other." I think I pushed her to her limit finally. Well, maybe a few times before that. But really, Mark, but really, it wasn't a hard decision for me because I just wanted to ski, a sport my parents started me with when I was 2 years old. It is too long, but I'm going to finish. Needless to say, my mom walked up the mountain and eventually back down to stand on the sidelines and watch me race. She was amazing. We were the luckiest kids. When my kids were born, the cycle started all over again. We were lucky enough to live in the same state as my mom, and she and Ira missed few games in all the sports my kids played through middle school and high school. When Johnny started racing, my mom and Ira were regular fixtures, especially at Devil's Bowl Speedway. My mom knew everyone. Everyone at the track. My mom befriended people everywhere she went. We would joke that my mom could make friends with somebody on a subway. We were all the lucky ones to have my mom in our lives. She was a superhero. She was my best friend. I will miss all the phone calls on my rides with my mom. To and from our track in Plattsburgh, New York every Wednesday, and again on Friday for an hour and a half each way on my way home. And to the bank late at night to do my bank drops. I will miss her, "Hi, Lainey," when I called late at night. She knew it was me because I was the only one who called her that late, knowing she was always up way past 12:30 at night. But truly, I was the lucky one to have her as my mom. Thank you.
I'm really going to try. Tom said I could do this. All right, I sort of feel like I'm at an award show at this point, and I'm going to get escorted off the stage for speaking too long, but I'll try my best. We just have so many memories. I inherited so many things from my mom, mostly, and some from my dad. My love and addiction for sweets and chocolate. I can't hold that. Yes. To this day, I tell this story to everyone, that if we didn't have 3 types of cookies in the house, it was time to go to the store. It wasn't if we didn't have milk or anything, but it was sweets. If we ran out, time to go shopping. The other thing I also acquired from her is my obsession and need to brush my teeth. After every single meal, my family knows, man, I get cranky if I can't do that. I frequently say right after I eat, I'm gonna die if I don't brush my teeth. She would want me to tell you all today to floss and don't chew ice, whatever you do. We also have the same gift of gab. I feel bad for my kids everywhere I'd go, talk to people in the grocery lines. They'd say, "How do you know them?" I don't. I'd come home and tell my mom the stories And I always had some connection, whether they were from North Carolina or Vermont. She'd say, you always do. You always connect with people, just like she did. It would just be so ironic, and I'd love telling her those stories. We love Mahjong. I grew up watching her play with all her friends and my relatives. I sat right on her seat with her. I loved the tiles. I loved listening to them. And many years ago, I started playing myself with my friends. So we had this in common. I'd come home and she'd tell me how much she won. She played for money, big money. If she won $2 or lost 50 cents, she'd tell me, and she didn't care. She just loved playing with all her friends. Really, though, just talked about the snacks that we had. What the good snacks were, what the bad snacks were. It was really just about the snacks. And now the gals I play with, it's all about the snacks, and we forget who even won the last game. Mom taught me how to make jam. I watched her make it, and now I make it. I try and send some to family. And she taught me how to make applesauce. And this last visit, we did both. We went apple picking, and she couldn't get out of the car, but there's so many varieties. I would go pick an apple and bring it back to the car, and she would try it. She'd know this. She'd say, that kind's not good. So I'd go pick another one, and I filled up my bag. We brought it home and made applesauce. And then with the berries, she sat in the car with the sun on her face, and I went home and made her raspberry turnovers. We were so full from all the other sweets that I brought, and it came out of the oven, and she just said, I have to have one. They're never going to be as good as right now, warm. And she sat there and she ate it. That was the last picture I took of her eating that. The favorite thing we did together was searching for maple creamies. Last spring, we picked up Ira. Thank God for his sense of direction, because Mom and I had none. He told us which way to go. We stopped I don't know how many places. We made phone calls. It was the end of the season. Ira kept directing us left and right. We finally found one out, I don't know, BFE somewhere. I got out, got the McCreamy, just sat there and enjoyed it. But Ira, I asked her why she wanted to sit in the back seat with you all the time. She just said she loved to hold your hand. She liked the feel of it. You made her feel safe and loved. As you all know, my mom was amazing. She worked full time, went to our activities, and would come home to 3 hungry kids. Before she took her coat off, I'd ask her what was for dessert. I never asked what was for dinner, just what was for dessert. And we had something every single night. Not happy if it was fruit cocktail, but otherwise I was...
Butterscotch pudding.
It was good. I'm glad my boys were able to get to know my mom. She loved you guys. Every day there was an update. She wanted to see who you become. She just couldn't get enough. Thanks for my tribe at home who are watching. You've got my back. Thanks for helping with my dogs. I told her all the stories about you guys. She knew you all. I knew this day would come, but sadly it was too soon. I was planning to come in a couple weeks to see her for her birthday. But I hope now she's at peace, and I hope she's eating something yummy and sweet. Thank you.
Thank you. We'll now hear from Thomas and Robbie, Sharon's beloved grandchildren.
Hi, everyone. My name is Robbie. This is Thomas. I might not be as funny as the rest of them, but the other day I was really thinking of what to say, and the night before she passed, I was lucky enough to talk to her on the phone. So it's kind of went through a whole conversation a couple times, and the one thing I really remembered is every time we got off the phone, she would say, "I love you," about 4 or 5 times. And we would talk for a couple more minutes and forget something, and she'd have another question. And every time she said, "I love you," you knew she really meant it. And I think we have a hard time with that sometimes, you know. We love maple creamies. My mom does, certainly. But for her, whenever she said it, you really knew she meant it. And even though I didn't floss as often as I could have and I chewed ice, you knew she loved you. Even if there was something wrong that day and she wasn't feeling the best or you weren't doing the best, you knew she meant it. And I think she would have really been happy not only to see us lifting her up, but holding each other up and loving each other. So I appreciate y'all all being here, and it's good to see y'all that I've seen before, and it's nice to meet y'all that I haven't. Thank you for being here.
Hey everybody, like you said, I'm Thomas. I am, as my grandmother reminded me pretty often, her first and oldest grandchild. The thing that I would love to highlight about my grandmother today, a lot of people will say things and a lot of people say things very similar. She was a wonderful listener. And the reason I bring that up and the reason that I'm preparing you guys for this is there are going to be a lot of us talking today. I think I heard while we were over there, the rabbi said, this is the most people I have ever heard wanting to talk at a funeral. And a lot of us are going to talk a little bit longer than we should. And that's because my grandmother made us all feel so comfortable speaking. She wanted to hear exactly what we had to say for as long as we had to say it. Stuart talked about car rides. Lainey talked about car rides. I would almost exclusively call my mother or my grandmother on a car ride. She'd always say, "Oh, I'm happy to be going to and from with you." It truly speaks to her character, how much she cared about what we had to say, and it will continue to speak to her character as we speak longer than we should today, because she told us we could speak as long as we wanted, and we will, and a lot of us will do it for a very long time. I love her a lot. I'm going to miss her a lot. Every time I talk to my mother, I'll remember my grandmother because she, as she said, is the same way. It's questions, it's listening. And today, I would encourage us all to learn from her a little bit and be ready to listen for a pretty long time. Thank you.
Thank you. And now we'll hear from Austin and Johnny, also grandchildren.
A lot shorter than them. Yeah, like they did, I had to write it all down. Whether you knew her as Sharon, Shashi, or in my case, Grammy, my grandmother touched the lives of everyone she talked to, no matter how brief the conversation. My Grammy meant everything to me, and I will miss her more than I can put into words. Whether it was a soccer game, a ceremony, or even a 3-hour nutcracker ballet I made her sit through when I played a rat for 2 minutes, Grammy was always there for me and showed up no matter what. I will always cherish the memories of us getting pedicures together every month, her watching me walk down the hall and wave every time I left for at least 5 minutes, and playing Rummy Cube with her because, man, she was a shark at that game. I also loved our weekly Dancing with the Stars conversations. She'd call me 30 minutes before Dancing with the Stars every week and talk about how terrible their outfits were and who she thought was going to get sent home every week. Grammy always told me I was her favorite granddaughter. Granted, I was her only granddaughter. She was the kindest person I've ever known with a true heart of gold. A piece of my heart will permanently be broken from her loss. But I am so proud and honored to have been able to call her my grandmother. John told me I had to breathe. Breathing. I will love her always and carry her in my heart forever.
Good morning, everyone. I would like to start by saying how honored I am to speak on behalf of my grandmother today, and how happy she would be to see all of you here today. My grandmother was a one-of-a-kind person, and I will forever cherish our memories and time together. Grammy, much like my mother, has been there every step of the way throughout my life. I was very fortunate to have her attend every sporting or racing event that she possibly could, in addition to joining us for pretty much every major holiday. One of my fondest memories of Grammy was having her make her famous cheesecake on all of my birthdays, where my family and I would enjoy half and then freeze the other half. Needless to say, she introduced our love to sweets. I will forever miss Grammy, and I will continue to honor and make her proud every day. Thank you.
And now, Cousin Larry.
My name is Larry Greenberg. I'm Sharon's cousin, proud to say that. I have been in this synagogue many times. As a child, I keep looking out for people that I think should be here, that are no longer here. The Alpert family, Louis and Fanny Alpert, settled in Burlington, Vermont. Louis and Fanny had 7 children. They had 4 girls and 3 boys. Sam Alpert had 2 children, Richard and Sharon, my cousins. Eve Magrum had 2 children, Louise and Audrey, my 2 cousins. My mother, Rose Greenberg, had 2 children, Lynn and myself. And I'm going blank on one name here for a second. We had an aunt who had 2 children. No, Lila did not have any children. Jim did not have any children. Bob did not have any children. Irene had 2 children, Sandra and Marlene. Of the cousins, my sister and I, and Audrey and Louise are left. We all remember Sharon. I was fortunate to have gone to school at UVM, spent a lot of time with Richard, spent a lot of time with Sharon. They were great cousins. I don't have any stories about desserts to tell you. All I can say is I had frequent conversations with Sharon. We met in Fairhaven for lunch with Ira. We had great times. I will remember Sharon fondly for all of my days. She was a great, great cousin. Thank you.
Mark Alpert, nephew. Just so you know who's next, after that we'll hear from Ira Allen and then Jeff.
Good morning, everyone.
Should have made the order a little more. Yeah, okay.
Oh. So thanks for being here, everyone, and helping us to celebrate Shush. And I'm gonna refer to as Shush. There's Grammy. There's everything else, but Tush. She was Shush. I have something to read to you, but one quick story before I get started on that. Last year we were together to celebrate Shush's birthday, and my brother Jeff gave a nice little toast to everybody that was there. Basically, I'm paraphrasing a little bit. Basically, the story was about how good he and Shush had it back in 1960 when it was just the two of them, and they got to spend all that time together. And then and then I showed up and got a little older, and Scott showed up and got a little older, and then Stuart and Laney and Laura and Austin and Johnny and Thomas and Robbie showed up, and how much more it was for the two of them to have to manage, and that things were getting a little, getting a little complicated. And while I was sitting there listening to him, I thought, A, it was kind of a funny little spiel he was doing. When I said B, but I was like, well, what about me? I kind of felt like Shush was my special. I'm the God kid, and so what a bond that was for her and I as I grew up, and she was always my fairy godmother, and at least until I think bar mitzvah age, and then we shortened it a little bit, so down just to FGM, so as not to embarrass anybody, but it was always the fairy godmom, and how are we doing today, fairy godmom, and how was I doing today, fairy godmom, and so I realized that was Shush, and everybody, and you've heard it already 6 or 7 times, how special Shush could make anybody feel, and how she could make friends with anyone, and make everybody feel like a best friend, and that she was caring and sincere and genuinely interested in what everybody was doing and what everybody had to say. So it was all of us, and probably most of the people sitting in this room the same way. So you all know that my dad was a letter writer, and I think Larry got a lot of them. There was always letters back and forth, and we all did as well. I think I said at my dad's funeral, it was his superpower that he was able to write these letters and just make people feel very comforting and comforted, I should say. And so they were usually short, and unless they weren't, because you were challenged or something to step up and do something. So but mostly short, always humorous. And most importantly, though, always from the heart, very sincere and from the heart. So as Laura was going through some of Shush's stuff, she found a letter that she received from my dad and wanted to share that with you today. So it was back in 1998 when my dad wrote this, and Shush laminated it and kept it in her drawer. So thought it'd be nice to share this with you. Dear Sharon, with your milestone birthday fast approaching, I thought it a good time to express my feelings for you. First, I love you because you always kiss me or hug me when we get together. I like that. I love you because you're a wonderful mother to your kids whom I adore. I love that you've been friends with Shirley all these years. I love being with you and your soulmate, whether in couples or when he and I are alone. I always look forward to it. You are able to meet complete strangers and make them feel welcome. You do that better than anyone I know, and I love you for it. I love that you're my much younger sister, and you look like it. I love you've been able to quit smoking, so we'll be able to spend more time together. They say that as you go through life, you're lucky to have 2 or 3 close friends. I'm fortunate to count you in that select group. Have a wonderful, happy birthday, and you can always count on my love. Your friend and brother, Richard.
Thank you. And now we'll hear from her special friend in recent years, Ira. Oh, right.
Yep. Thank you. Well, it's been my privilege to know Sharon about 8 years. I recall about the first thing we did in order to get acquainted was what would you like to do? Well, I don't know. What do you want to do? Anybody ever play that routine? Well, it turned out that what we did was we went to the agricultural show out at Essex Junction. Then a day or two later, there was a gun show in the same location. And pretty soon the tractor ride in Shalat showed up. So you get a pattern here, right? I mean, and of course, has a certain level of sophistication, and I'm from several generations of Vermonters, farmers, and people who worked in the woods and did various nefarious things to survive. So there was a little difference in culture here. I remember in the tractor parade in Shalat, it chanced that we were way down here and we had to go way back there to get to the car. And so along the route of the parade, we had a tractor with a trailer on it, and I had to drive the tractor necessarily. And there wasn't any co-pilot position, so Sharon found herself on this big trailer with, okay, what do we do now? Well, there chanced to be a chair, and she pulled it off with aplomb. She was the queen of the parade. And then as things developed, I put the cat out of the bag that I was a fraternity brother from a nefarious outfit down here on the corner of Main and Prospect. Some of you folks may know it. If any of you were associated with the fraternity that was here, it was a little different than the fraternity that was located down there, and we won't go into great depths about the relationship between those two organizations. But if there's a point to this whole story, I guess that Sharon and I together attended some official functions. The other place is called the Owl House at Lambda Iota, just to make, put all the cards on the table. And I think you can sum it up by saying there are some Lambda brothers here today, and they're here because Sharon accepted an invitation to in later years, in the time period we're talking about, to attend fraternal functions. And I don't know, I think of taming the wild beast. Anyway, it's remarkable. So it's another of her accomplishments, perhaps. So I remember her for all sorts of things. Her ability to bring people together, to make friends, to create friendships among other people, and look around you, and I rest my case. I've been exposed to a wonderful group of people. Maybe the exposure is on your side, not mine. But I so appreciate it, and it's a realization on my part, and it's due to Sharon and her ability to bring people together in friendship and love. And I thank you all, and I love you all.
Thank you. And lastly, we'll hear from Jeff Alpert, her beloved nephew.
This is definitely more speeches than I've ever experienced at a funeral. I will try to be brief. Those of you who don't know me, my name is Jeff Alpert, and I'm Josh's nephew. And I'm pretty sure I was her favorite. Well, maybe that's not true. So until like 40 years before Thomas and Robbie and Austin and Johnny showed up, I was her favorite. Okay. One thing I do know for sure is that for 64 years, 342 days, one person on earth thought that I was perfect. When that one person is so full of love and goodness and kindness, and you love that person as much as I love Shush, it's probably all you need. In case anybody's doing the math on that, my birthday is actually one day before her birthday, so just another bond that we had. I talk a lot with my wife Nina about how lucky we are to have so many old friends from the time we were little kids. It's truly remarkable. I know both my brothers have lifelong friendships, but how many people in this room can say that you are really connected, and really close to people you knew when you were 4 and 5 years old? I'm lucky that I have those great childhood memories. But my earliest memory was not of one of those friends. My earliest memory was not even of my brothers. My oldest memory was of Shush. We would often lie on the floor. Oh, sorry, Zoomers. Thanks. So we would often lie on the floor underneath the piano at my grandparents' house, my dad and Shasha's parents' house. And she taught me how to color. And she would correct me when I went outside the lines, and she would tell me, what the best colors were for whatever part of the drawing we were using or we were doing. And that's not a story that I've heard. That's not a photo that I've ever seen. That truly is a memory from the time I was about 3 years old. It's a memory that I will keep forever with me. I mean, it's a memory that I'll have until I'm gone. Shush, as has been pointed out, made so many friends over the years and stays connected with everyone. Whenever we saw each other or talked on the phone, all I really wanted to know was how she was feeling and how things were going at Maple Ridge. But before she would answer, it was 20 questions. She wanted to know every detail about my adult children, Sam and Rebecca. She wanted to know how Nina was doing. She wanted to know if I had connected with Beth. She always wanted to know if I knew where my brothers were, and I usually didn't, which thrilled her because she always did, and she always filled in the blanks. She always told me that, where my brothers and their family were. Just most recently, like in the last couple of months, most recent conversations I had, she said, "You know where Mark is?" I said, "Yeah, no, I'm not really sure where Mark is." "Oh, he's in Portugal." I'm like, "Oh, okay." Another phone call about a month later, "You know where Scott is?" I was like, "Yeah, no, I don't really know where Scott is." "Well, he's in Miami." So she always filled in those blanks. She always knew where the family was, and that meant an awful lot to me. When it was finally my turn to get some questions in, after she told me how she was doing, I'd ask her about the family members on her and my dad's side who were her generation. I'd ask her about Louise and Lynn and Audrey and Larry. And I'd go one step further. I'd ask her about that kind of next circle of relatives who were both her generation and my generation that were like one step beyond that crew. And the reason I did that is because I knew she always had an answer. I knew that she would know what all those folks were doing, how all those folks were, where they were, what they were up to, how well they were. And it meant so much to me that she was so connected to them. And it wasn't lost on me how much she loved all of those people. So I'm prepared to give a little bit of a warning to that crew that I just named and my cousins who I didn't name, is that in Shash's honor and Shash's spirit, I am going to do a better job of reaching out, a better job of being connected, a better job of talking to all of them. Maybe that's Shash's greatest legacy. Maybe that's the greatest lesson that Shash could have taught all of us, and everybody's mentioned it in their own way. She just imparted so much love. She loved the newest friend, and she loved the oldest family member. And in how important it is to stay connected, to be connected to each other. So I miss her and love her with all my heart. And to me, she was perfect.
Thank you, everyone, for those beautiful words. I'll just conclude with a little bit of words about Sharon and her connection to Judaism. Every year, Sharon's yahrzeit will fall on the 30th of Kislev, which is the 6th night of Hanukkah. So as you light that 6th candle, you'll also be lighting a neshama candle for her soul. It's also that night is also the first of 2 days of Rosh Chodesh, when the tiny sliver of the new moon appears. Rosh Chodesh Hanukkah is a special Jewish holiday for Jewish women. In the Middle East and North Africa, and now gaining traction among Ashkenazim as well, Chag HaBanot, the festival for the daughters. And so it's on that day that women would come to synagogue, would pray for the health of their daughters. Mothers would give daughters gifts. Grooms would give gifts to their brides. Girls who were fighting were expected to reconcile. And old women and young women would come together to dance. There might be a feast in honor of Judith, where participants would eat cheese to remember Judith's subterfuge. The story, she feeds the enemy general salty cheese to encourage him to get thirsty and drink wine. And so when he passes out, she can cut off his head and post it in front of the enemy camp to confuse them and turn the tide of the war. There's also a custom of passing down inheritances on Chag HaBanot, Festival of the Daughters, including the gifting of family heirlooms like jewelry. And so it is fitting that she will be remembered on that day because Sharon was a very proud and active member of Hadassah, the Women's Zionist Organization of America, and the Hasidic Sisterhood. She was very involved with that as well. And her Hebrew name, Rachel Leah, it's interesting. Both who were sisters in our stories, we just been reading about them actually, the great matriarchs of Israel. They were the mothers, literally the mothers of the children of Israel, the 12 tribes and Dinah. And so we think of Rachel and Leah as the mothers of Israel. And so besides being a beloved mother, a grandmother, and aunt, she was considered by many to be like a mother, like an adopted mother for them, always looking after others, including her childhood friend's mother and her sister-in-law, Shirley, who struggled with dementia in ways that were really challenging, but Sharon never stopped taking care of her. She was even there when Shirley died, and they were so grateful that she was able to get Shirley's sons on the phone to talk before her passing. And at Maple Ridge, there were caregivers who moved away but still kept in touch with her. The young women who worked there would often go and talk to her for hours about their dates to get support and advice. Even when she was no longer mobile, she was still a fountain of chesed, of God's love and kindness. Right up to the day before she died, she was asking her friend Sandy at Maple Ridge if she needed anything. Every year you'll light 6 candles for Hanukkah alongside the 24-hour yahrzeit candle, the Ner Neshama, the soul candle, because as King Solomon wrote in Proverbs, Ner Hashem Nishmat Adam, that the candle of God is the soul of a human. That is, our souls are like God's candles. And God's dream for the world is that the people he created would gaze at each other's light and bless on it. The Hanukkah lights are said to reinvigorate and to heal our eyes so we can see the good and the sweetness and the miraculous and the light in the people around us. Family was the most important thing for Sharon, and she made sure that they knew how much she loved them. She held her granddaughter emotionally through her first challenging years at UVM. She went to the racetrack to watch her grandson race, although she probably thought it was dangerous. She went to all of her grandchildren's games and plays, as was mentioned, and had her own bedroom in her children's houses because she was so frequently visiting. Sharon understood intuitively that each of us is our own unique source of light, divine light. And we gather with our family. We are, each of us, like candles in a great menorah. So we must appreciate that light. That's what we're here to do. Appreciate each other's divine light and bless on it. And that's why we're here. 86 years, that's a lot of light. Zichrono livracha, may Sharon's memory and the light of her neshama, her soul, continue to illuminate the darkness for all of us and continue to shine on and bless all of us. And I want to conclude by saying what I often tell grandchildren of someone dear to them, that in the Holy Zohar, the ancient Kabbalah teaches that when grandparents die, they become guardian angels for their grandchildren and great-grandchildren, and that they are there in the hardest and the most joyous moments to share with you and to hold you and to give you strength. So you should know that this is a Jewish tradition, that she will be your guardian angel. And now we'll conclude with El Male Rachamim. So please rise. And Shimi, is there any announcements to be made?
Well, we've been going to the cemetery for the burial, and we try to keep cars together in the procession, but sometimes hard to do. So if you're in the procession, please keep your four-way flashers on. For those that want to go to the cemetery ahead, it's on Patchen Road. If you have a GPS, it's 319, and that's in South Burlington.
Okay. So the Holy Hebrew Cemetery, Holy Hebrew Society Cemetery. And so we'll be reciting El Male Rachamim, which in English, the prayer means, it's a prayer for the soul of the person who died. O God, full of mercy, who dwells on high, grant proper rest under the wings of the Shekhinah, the divine mothering presence, in the highest level of the holy and pure ones, the angels who shine like the glow of the firmament, for the neshama of Rachel Leah bat Shmuel ve'Elva Esther, who has gone on to her world. May her resting place be in the Garden of Eden. Please, Master of Mercy, shelter her in the shelter of your wings for eternity, and may you bind her soul in the bond of life. Adonai is her inheritance, and may she settle b'shalom, in wholeness and peace, in her resting place. And let us say, Amen.
רחמים שוכן במרומים המצא מנוחה נכונה תחת כנפי השכינה במעלות קדושים וטהורים כזוהר כי המזהירים את נשמת רחל לאה בת שמואל ואסתר שהלכה לעולמה בגן עדן דמנוחתה אנא בעל הרחמים הסיריה בסתר כנפך לעולמים וצרור בצרור החיים את נשמתה אדוני הוא נחלתם ותנוח
Amen.
בצל שדי יתלונן, אומר לאדוני מחסיר, ומצדתי אלוהי. אבטח בו, כי הוא יצילך מפח יכוש מדבר חוויות. עברתו יסך לך, ותחת כנפיו תחסה צינה, וסוחרה מיתו. לא תירא מפח הלילה, בחץ יהוף יומם, מדבר בעופר יחלוך, מכתב ישוט צהריים. יפול מצדך 1,000 ורבבה ממך אליך לא ייגש. רק בעיניך תבין שלומד שהין צירי, כי אתה אדוני מחסיר. אל יום שמיים עיניך ותענה